Welcome to the Right Hand Roadmap, the podcast for seconds in command of founder-led companies. I'm your host, Megan Long, owner of Second First. In each episode, we show you the path to success on your journey as the number 2 leader in entrepreneurial companies. I am so happy you are here. Today, we are doing something completely new for the Right Hand Roadmap, and that is bringing the experts that are speaking within our Second First membership on to the podcast to share value with you all. We're starting with Shawn Lemon, who is the founder of a company called The Digital Organizer. Shawn has spent the last 17 years helping individuals and businesses get better at using their technology. So that means communication, tools, data, files, all of that. A teacher at heart, Shawn believes that the biggest reason people struggle with their tech is because of a lack of understanding of the tools, which is not surprising because they're constantly changing as technology advances. He recently did a training for all of our Second First members called Taming the Digital Chaos, and I cannot wait for him to share some value with you today. Let's dig in. Shawn Lemon, founder of The Digital Organizer. Explain like I am 5 years old. What is your business and how do you help entrepreneurial companies?
Yeah, when businesses grow, they make big messes. They start communicating in a bunch of different channels. They start storing files all over the place because they're building their team. And as they're adding to their team, everyone has their own systems and tools that they like to use. And when you're small, that's okay until it's not. And you've got some people on project management and some not. And things really aren't streamlined. And things go missing. So it's hard to communicate, it's hard to track what work is getting done and the timing that it's getting done, and it's hard to find what you're looking for, which makes all of your day-to-day operations, well, have a lot of friction. So what we do is come in and help you organize, consolidate, purge, and get a good system.
I cannot tell you how much I love your company. I think you always want to build a business that solves a problem, and I think the problem that you and the Digital Organizer solves is one that so many small businesses just thought they had to live with and was just something that was part of being an entrepreneur, and files were always going to be a mess and the inbox was always going to be a mess. And the fact that you're like, no, there's a better way to do it. Let us help you, I think is just something that a lot of people haven't even heard of.
It's true. I mean, so many people don't realize it's there, and a lot of people don't value it. They want it, but they're not willing to invest in it because it's, chasing after the revenue. And, when you're small, that's what you have to do is you got to chase revenue first, and operations kind of lags a little bit behind until you can afford your second in command and some of these other people to really come in and start streamlining it. But yeah, it does not have to stay, in that same format of ADHD craziness that most founders have, and you just kind of all over the place. It can be really streamlined and easy to find what you're looking for and communicate.
So when it comes to either data or communications, or like you said, even like tools like app sprawl, what is the biggest mistake you usually see when you come in and work with these growing companies?
I think a big part of it is not being ruthless in cutting down the tools that you use and just enforcing. At some point, we have to say, this is for the team. Your individual productivity may suffer a little bit so that the rest of the team can be more productive so that you're not the bottleneck anymore. So that can be a part of it. And then the other part is trying to organize and use all of the features, all of the different platforms you have to their fullest capacity. We don't need to use all of our tools to the fullest capacity because there is so much freaking overlap. We need to have dedicated spots.
Oh, so you're saying it might be worth it to spend a little bit extra on a different SaaS product that does something an existing one does, but it does it better or more efficiently. So you shouldn't try and just consolidate all in one tool.
Yes. Sometimes that's it. And sometimes it's you're trying to use something fancy when you haven't gotten your baseline really sorted. So if we do our folder structure really well, and it's all in the cloud, we're using links, we're not sending attachments to people and files back and forth so we have version issues, everyone's working off the same thing, and you have a dedicated place where all of your assets are, you don't need to upload your files. You don't need to find a project management software that has the ability to upload files in a way that you can see them all in one spot, like Basecamp. You don't need that sort of thing because you already have the spot for it. While you may want Pipedrive for your CRM, and it can do a whole lot of stuff for you, your marketing, your email marketing campaigns, well, you shouldn't use it. Your email marketing campaigns need to be in ConvertKit or HubSpot, and your CRM needs to be more focused and maybe some targeted marketing emails to a specific segment. But we're not trying to use all of these all-in-one tools and everything that they can do because we just need dedicated spots. And then we can use a specialized tool for a specific purpose. And everything is clear where we put things.
Okay, I love this. You talk about different tools that have different purposes.
Yeah.
What do you recommend then as being the one source of truth? Let me give you an example. A problem that I see companies run into is they go all in on a SaaS company and they put all of their information, all of their documentation into this product that either they realize they can't afford anymore or they want to move off of. And getting all of that in, it's like held hostage. They're like,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
how do we get all of our information out? And it's usually
Yeah.
just like a CSV file dump or something. So, what should be your internal one source of truth if it's not going to go into all of these different platforms?
Yeah. So, whichever one you're going to use kind of as your baseline. So for my company, it's Google Workspace. So my email's hosted there, calendars, Google Drive is our file storage system. And I've got all of the others, but I use those as mailboxes. So that is the origination point. That's where all the raw files goes. As we are creating a standard operating procedure, I want that stored in my Google Drive. And then if I'm going to use something like Searchy or membership.io for all of my training materials, or if you're using, what's that app Elizabeth Yarbrough uses?
Oh, Trainual.
Trainual. So if you're going to upload stuff in Trainual, the origination of all of your files is from your main filing system, whether that's your SharePoint or Google Drive. That is the baseline. Now we can upload our resources into that tool so that if we need to switch from one to the other, we still have all of our raw material, and maybe we need to grab a few things here and there from Trainual that we uploaded there specifically, but didn't do our due diligence putting it in the main spot first. So that's what I do. I record tons of videos. They all get stored in Google Drive first, then they get uploaded into my membership.io account.
Okay, so you also came and spoke with our members, our Second First members within the membership, and you did an incredible training where you mentioned fun fact, you're a potter, a beautiful potter. I was stalking your Etsy shop. It's wonderful work. But you had this amazing metaphor of taking how a potter's workflow works and applying it to business and data. Can you kind of walk through that for us?
Yeah. So what that was all about is talking about our file structure and how we organize things. And so a lot of times people get hung up on folder structure and your naming conventions. And so there's so many different theories about how you organize your files and group things together. And my example was in pottery, we have specific stages. First off, when you're starting off, you've got a bag of wet clay. And then you measure it out, and you have a whole workstation where you're measuring out what you're about to use, say about a pound for a mug, and other things like that. And you need to kind of knead it. It's called whatever. So I'm not going to tell you what it's called, but each one of them have different stages. And so when I'm doing that, I have a specific set of tools. When I'm actually forming the pot, I'm using a different set of tools. When I'm trimming it, it's a different set. And each set of those tools are in different cups, and sometimes they're in different locations in the workshop. And so when we're setting up a physical space to work efficiently, we're stacking up all of the things that we use for that specific task in one place. And so it's contextual based organization. And Japanese manufacturing does this as well. Lean manufacturing, it's all about this. And so that's how we really want to set up our workflows so that we've got everything we need when we go to create this or when we go to reconcile our books.
Talking about file structure, I think the natural default so many of us go to is having like, okay, here's our 2024 client folder. Here's our 2025. We think either names or dates are the best way to organize. And you're saying, no, it should be based on like the work itself.
Right. And then there's different archive strategies. So you were just talking about 2024 clients, we're now into 2025. And so a lot of people that I'm talking to are creating 2025 folders and they're starting to put all of that stuff in. But that's not really how we work. Once we roll into 2025, it's not like you're not accessing 2024 anymore. So why are you going to back out of that, go into 2024, and then work in a whole different folder structure? That doesn't make sense. So if we talk about clients, my clients folder is a top level folder because we are a service-based company. So when you open up my clients folder, it's only the clients that are active right now. It's very fast to get to what you need. Now, if I've got a client that we just finished the project, they get moved into inactive clients. And then they can just be promoted if they come back for another engagement.
You also talk about inboxes and using kind of email and communications as, it's another form of data management.
Right.
So I'm thinking back to myself over my 10 years of being kind of a second in command of an entrepreneurial company. There definitely became a time where I was like, I'm throwing in the towel. I give up. I'm waving the white flag. And my inbox was just thousands and thousands of, it was a mess. Is there ever a point where you say, this is too far gone, we just need to burn it to the ground or start over?
To an extent, but a lot of people actually want to start over and they're like, should we just create a new account? And the answer is usually no. But, if we're just answering everyone's, it depends. Usually it's a sort of burn it to the ground saying, let's pick a cutoff date. Usually that's 30 days or so, sometimes less, sometimes more. And then we archive everything past that date. Now what we're dealing with is a much more manageable set of emails that we can actually process, because we're not going to process 30,000 emails. It's just not happening.
Right.
And if you spend that time doing it, it's a waste of time. So pick the cutoff. Now let's focus on a certain time period so that we can start unsubscribing. We can delete things that are done, archive things that are done, and then we're left with things that we need to triage and deal with. And now we can create a new system of how we interact with email to be a better communication tool.
Something else that I have heard you mention before is email should be for external communication primarily or only. I don't know how hard you draw that line. And use other tools, other methods to communicate internally. Our community is seconds in command or that right-hand leader to an entrepreneur, that very like visionary, fast-moving type of personality that oftentimes, and I say this with like compassion and love, do not follow the quote rules within their own company. So they're shooting off text messages when they think of it, or they're just emailing a file instead of a link. So what do you recommend for a COO or someone in that seat to almost either manage up these processes or at least be a membrane to protect the rest of the team from any chaos kind of bleeding over?
I have experience with this. And I have experience being the founder, creating the chaos, not following the rules, and finally getting around to this point? It took repetition. It took the team letting me know multiple times and multiple ways that I was screwing up the plan. What they would do is say, hey, you know how this happened? Well, this is why we have this other communication channel, or this is why this is supposed to go in Asana. Or if I emailed my assistant a request to do something, she replied, isn't this supposed to go into Asana? It's like,
Oh, the
ah,
gentle
right.
reminder.
The gentle reminder. And I was like, yes, thank you. And and then once I started using it, I realized there's a reason for this. And if I can just
Mm.
use the appropriate spot, then I know that things will get done, because I don't like having requests come to me from a different bunch of different channels. And so having someone on my team initiate this by saying, we're going to create a communication plan where we're not emailing each other. We discuss all of our work in Asana. We can have discussions internally in Slack if we need to. We actually ended up sunsetting it because almost all of our discussions were around work. And then
Mhm.
we created meetings specifically for social so that we can talk to each other about this, so that we're not just being distracted chatting in Slack all day long. So, establishing a communication plan and saying, this is when we text, this is when we call, this is when we email, and how we use it. And these are where we have these different types of discussions, and then gently enforcing it over time, and also highlighting why we're doing this, highlighting the friction that not following this causes and how we all want to work better. Then you will start to get compliance in that area.
I have seen people will always choose the path of least resistance for
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
So knowing, oh, this is actually what I am causing by
Hmm.
choosing just to directly go to someone's office and hand them someone or tell them something as opposed to going through the system. I think that's impactful.
You hit the nail on the head of highlighting the effects. And that's the one thing that a lot of people are scared to speak up to, or speak up about. And sometimes for good reasons, because that hasn't gone well. And that would be something, as a second in command, I would want to try and turn around and create room for dissent a little bit, and to be able to share, this is how it's affecting the team. Because the thing that really sunk it home for me was saying, when you're asking me to do this, but I have an entire plan in Asana that you're not paying attention to. And so when you ask me to do this, I can't go do all of these other things. So what is it that you want me to do? And once I had that context, it's, yeah, follow the plan. I need to add it to Asana and basically let you know a time frame to get this done. And because it really wasn't that important.
Mentioning seconds in command. So, for this role in particular, for growing and scaling entrepreneurial companies, what would be the biggest piece of advice, or maybe like the top few things that they could start to implement, or projects that they could start to think of in order to make sure that this doesn't become an issue or they get ahead of it?
When you're going to take a look at your tools and how you're using them and try and get your digital chaos under control, a good assessment is first, and then asking people why they're using these tools, and really try and dig into this, because you're probably going to be taking some away. So why are they using that? Do we have another platform that can accomplish this? Really weighing the pros and cons. And then from there, creating a small cohort of people who are actually interested in being beta testers, so that you're not rolling something out for the entire organization before it's been proven in a small group. And then added to as is appropriate. Maybe we feel it's completely ready for the entire organization, or we're going to add one more in, because what we're doing is building trust. This works, and we want the people on that team saying, yes, this is great, this is so much better, we can find what we're looking for, and this has made things easier. And then everyone else actually wants to do it. So try and get everyone on board by proving the system, proving what you're doing, because if you've been swayed this way and that over and over again, it's probably not going to go well if you start introducing more change.
When you assess, do you recommend going team by team and finding out, like, okay, our sales team hates using this one platform because
Hmm.
of this reason, but
Hmm.
operations is all in? Or do you
Yeah.
recommend putting together almost like a cross-departmental committee? What approach do you find to be the best?
I think cross-departmental would be good sometimes, and it all depends on the size of the organization too. So if we have a large department, then maybe we're just having a cohort for that. But having it cross-department would be great. Because yeah, I mean, I've been in so many instances where the marketing team absolutely loves Slack and the sales team is completely bogged down by it. They hate it. They can't find anything. Their communication sucks. But marketing, they're working internally so often. They've figured out their systems, but sales, they're working with people. So they don't have time to work on their own systems. And
Yeah.
sometimes all it is we actually need to get someone in here to work on creating a communication plan for the sales team. And then we can actually get them to use Slack properly and not be drowned by it, so that they're not getting Voxers, emails, text messages, voicemails, and all of the different things that the sales teams are using. So let's streamline it and do exactly what we talked about before. This is when we email, where we do it, how we do team communications, how we update each other on clients.
How did you get into this? How, because I'm thinking, like, I came from the IT world. So
Hmm.
doing this work to me feels similar to, like, the 1 in 1,000 people that love cable management, right? Like, it feels
Right.
so unique, and like you get energy out of something that most people dread.
Yeah.
What is your background in this?
So I worked at the Apple Store for 7 years, and
Okay.
the majority of that time, I taught people how to use their Apple products. I just saw so many people within chaos digitally, and so no one was filling that need, and so I started to. And then that led into doing IT break fix work, which led into MSP, so managed service provider. So then I became the tech support department, outsourced tech support for organizations. And, the one that probably taught me the most was seeing my father-in-law, Michael Hyatt's company, scale from zero to almost 80,
A
and
rocket ship.
and everything that came with it from start to finish. And so that was just a huge training ground. Plus he's an incredible leader.
Hmm.
So seeing how that worked and seeing the tech stack go nuts and seeing the sales team having such a hard time, but marketing loves it, that's all just from doing this sort of thing.
What an experience, though, specifically mentioning, Michael Hyatt, which wasn't even full focus until what, the
Right.
last few years.
That's right.
But what an extreme example of high growth for you to see firsthand and see the pain points that come along with that
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah.
And I think the approach you have every single time I speak with you, you talk about teaching and
Yeah.
coaching and educating. And I think that angle of, not only will your company come in and help and organize the digital chaos, as you call it, but you teach them how to manage it going forward and how to grow with these systems so it doesn't just devolve again.
Exactly. It If we do it for you, you're going to have to come right back to us. It's got to be, we've got to train. If we really want to be effective, we've got to train people. And we also just can't build it for you, because that's our system. That's not your way of working. That's not how you guys name files in the nomenclature and how you refer to different projects and what your process is. How can I build an effective workshop for you if if I don't even know what your specific business is and what your workflow is? So it's all so collaborative, but we want to create resources internally on our clients' teams so that they can be the internal resource when things change. And if you need some extra help, we'll be there, but your team has it.
I have one other question for you, specifically about tools, because you mentioned it does have to be so collaborative, and I like that you don't have like, here's the digital organizer way of doing things. You have to follow our file structure. You have to follow our naming convention.
Right.
Like, you work with the company.
Hmm.
When it comes to evaluating tools, do you have a rubric? Do you have a recommendation of how to make those decisions or things to look for, whether that be functionality or features or security?
I always just want to look at context. So when I'm recommending one product over another, it's trying to figure out, well, who are you working with? So if I'm working with a client in the construction industry, almost all of the vendors that they're working with are using Microsoft. So if they're on the fence between Google and Microsoft, they need to go Microsoft. If we're dealing with a tech company and they're primarily hiring young people have all been using Google Classroom.
Mhm.
Everyone's got a Gmail, a Google account. And so we may want to create an environment catered towards the type of staff that's going to be running it, because day-to-day operations, it's just friction, and you can't move as
Mhm.
fast or as well executing. And then who are you working with? So that might be internally, that might be with vendors, or that might be your clients primarily use a specific tool. And because you're delivering so many things to them, then maybe you need to pick what they use. So that's part of it. And then integrations are a big part as well, and really focusing on the outcome that we really want from this tool, and knowing that I'm going to just use Pipedrive for this one particular thing and know how to assess that.
The friction of the tool and the user base and what your demographic looks like of your employees honestly gave me like a PTSD flashback to working at it was a national healthcare company. I was there for only 6 months,
Yeah.
and they were hiring young CPAs,
Yeah.
and we would get there and their system was all based on the old green screen command prompt. So we would
Yeah.
have to run these queries, and it took forever. It was such a mismatch of the workforce and the tool they used.
Yeah, the amount of time that it took you to do that. So how many extra hours are they paying per day per employee? So I've got a stat on the website. It's from I think it's a McKinsey study. And they found that knowledge workers spend 1.8 hours a day searching for and gathering information. So that's 20% of their day. So for every 5 employees you hire, one is contributing no value. They're just running around in circles looking for stuff. So thinking about that healthcare organization and all the CPAs and how much friction it was, how many salaries were they paying to utilize an old system? I did another calculation for a marketing company that I had hired. And so they were a coaching-based company with training materials and a lot of things like that. And their internal system was a complete mess. And they've grown so fast, and they have never really internally organized this stuff. And so everyone is leaning on senior staff to find where certain things are. And then the materials aren't updated because the tech is changing so fast in marketing that their training materials weren't up to date. And so everyone is recreating the same thing over and over again because nobody knows where to upload the new stuff and just update materials for the clients. And so when we started looking at it and how much time every coach was spending just searching for and recreating documents, every coach could have brought on 2 more clients. And so that was another, I think it was like 8 coaches. So we're looking at an extra 16,000 a month just in efficiencies. And she said we could easily take on 2 more clients if we weren't doing this. And then what about the senior staff and how hampered they were? And they lost me as a client, and they lost all kinds of clients because they just couldn't respond fast enough. They couldn't get us what we needed fast enough, and it wasn't a good experience. I showed them how they could get Make $300,000 potentially of cost savings and potential additional revenue for an $8,000 investment.
May we all have someone like Shawn Lemon that says, I'm going to fire you, but here's how you can make thousands more in your business.
Yeah. Well, I did. That was like 6 months in. And then finally, I'm like, I'm done, guys.
Yeah, yeah. No, I don't blame you. Well, and you bring up such a great point too that again, I think that anyone in that right-hand leader, COO, director of operations position is so busy
Hmm.
that taking the time to do an overhaul like this to organize all of their data and organize all of their internal processes, it sounds like I don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
But on the other side, you have these senior employees that you're saying are now utter risks for the business because they're the only ones that know where things live and how to do things and what the process is. You eliminate the need for that tacit knowledge by taking the time to, like you said, we're going to be a little less productive
Hmm.
for a period of time,
Yeah.
but it's going to make everything so much more productive
Yeah.
on the other side of that.
Totally. And your senior staff, your best people, can be doing better, higher quality work than fetch. I mean, why are you paying your senior staff to fetch stuff for other people? It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it turns out it's not actually that big of a deal. It feels enormous when you're in the middle of it, and sometimes they're significant. It may take us a quarter to work together to overhaul this stuff. It's usually not that big of a deal once we come in and really look at it, and someone can see, oh, this is why this is happening. Yeah, your people are overloaded with email, and it feels like you have an email problem, but really what you have is a file storage problem. You're not utilizing SharePoint properly, and so everyone is emailing versions to each other, and no one can find what they're looking for, and they're trying to organize in a bunch of different ways and trying to figure out how to make it work. And
Mhm.
so their email is overloaded.
What can an executive listening do today or tomorrow to take a step in the right direction?
Yeah. So the best thing to do would just be to go to our website, so thedigitalorganizer.com. And if you put in slash second first, then you can download a file organization guide. And so this is the guide to consolidate your files. So, picking the platform, consolidating your files, organizing, purging, renaming, how we like to do renaming. And that's just a phenomenal starting place. And so if you've got someone great on your team, then if they have the framework and the philosophy behind how we do this, then they can probably self-implement. And if you need some help, then just by signing up for that, you're going to be in touch with me, and so you can book a call, and we can see if you might need our help or if I can point you in the right direction.
Amazing. We will put links to all of that in the show notes as well to make it nice and easy to find both you and that guide. Tell us a little bit, real quick, about the training that you did inside the membership.
Oh, yeah. So the training inside the membership is talking about the three core things that every business does day in and day out for operations. That's communicating, that's finding files and saving them, so digital asset management, and then managing tasks and projects. So it's the three different areas and how they interact with each other so that, you're getting email. But emails are communication. Sometimes they have data in them, and sometimes they have tasks that need to be managed elsewhere and not just sitting in your inbox, and how we pull them out. And it's about creating dedicated places to store your files, communicate about your tasks, and just communication in general, and how you can be really effective at this. And yeah, we're kind of building on some of the stuff that we talked about today.
Amazing. And if anyone did miss that, it's in the membership video library that we have inside the Second First membership. Shawn, you are incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time to share this amazing knowledge. You are such a great resource for entrepreneurial companies. And I am just so thankful to have you be part of the Second First expert circle.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be able to talk to you and share this with your people, and I hope it's really helpful.
To find show notes and links to anything mentioned in this episode, visit secondfirst.com/38. Be sure to subscribe to catch future episodes and leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Remember, you don't have to navigate being a second in command alone with the right hand roadmap.